I changed my screen name to say Nate is a douche.
Well, I wrote Van as a fag the first day, so that he's getting you back.
What a perfect way to start it.
There you go.
All right. Hey, I'm your host, Stephen Vanover. Welcome to the Sports Talk Line Network, where we talk sports 24/7, 365. This is the round table assault on the AFC East as we review the 2020 NFL Draft for that division. We're going to jump right in as we work around the room. As you can see, there are four of us poor souls here, and covering the Bills, we'll jump in with that first. We have Joshua Griffith. We've been waiting to get you here in the room, Joshua. Welcome to the show.
I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to have everything finally all set up on my end, so I can take part in these little Zoom meetings. Really enjoyed the last ones you guys have been doing for the NFL draft. So,
well, hey, let's just start with you right now. The Buffalo Bills, how do you grade their draft? Let's get a letter grade and some insight on what they did and what they did not do.
a letter grade, I'm going to give them a B+ for my letter grade. I think they had a pretty good draft, but I think they did a lot of their stuff before the draft with the Stefon Diggs trade for the first round. I mean, that's a first round pick that is guaranteed to be successful in the NFL. As it goes with their next couple picks, AJ Epinesa, DN from Iowa, that's a solid pick. It's a game changer on defense. He's going to slot in right away. 11.5 sacks last year. That's pretty good, Zach Moss is a running back. He's kind of a dual threat guy. He can come out of the backfield on third downs, a lot of catches. He had 28 receptions and 2 TDs to go with 15 TDs, rushing on the ground. So I think their first 2 draft picks in the second and third round are going to probably slot in right away and be pretty significant players for them for the next season here.
Well, hey, let me ask you real quick. What about the fall from grace, the precipitous fall from grace of QB Jake Fromm from Georgia and him ending up with the Bills, which I think is pretty awesome when you get down to it. Is that generating a lot of buzz, or is it like, well, that's about where he deserved to go? I don't think so.
I mean, I like the pick. I mean, it's, if something happens to Josh Allen, I don't think Josh Allen is proven enough right now. I mean, Tom definitely wants to talk on this one. I can tell here. So, Tom, fire away, buddy.
Well, my question, and I got to say, is 2019 the Bills, were pretty successful. Now, was the 2019 for the Buffalo Bills a mirage, or are they going to be sustained going forward and a consistent playoff contender in 2020 and beyond?
Well, I have to say, it was funny. You talk about Jake Fromm. If you were to take a polar opposite of a skill player, he couldn't be further than Josh Allen. Josh Allen is the guy with all the traits that you want, superior athlete. And then they go with the guy with a lot less of a cannon than him and Jake Fromm, but a lot of production from Georgia. I think it was a good value pick. I mean, I think they couldn't be further apart as far as
polar opposites.
Polar opposites.
Polar opposites. I totally agree, man. I mean, put this guy on the scout team because he's nothing like what you want to run.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, polar opposites is right. I mean, Jake Fromm's not going to take off and get you yards on the ground there. I mean,
the wrong way. Okay.
Yeah, but maybe backwards. But I mean, if you look at his passing accuracy, I mean, he's hit above 60% for his 3 years in university there. 62 the first, 67, and then 60. I mean, he was 2,800 yards, 24 TDs to 5 interceptions. He's going to be a good backup. And like I said, I mean, if something happens to Josh Allen, the way he runs, he's going to get popped and he's going to go down again, just like 2 years ago. And, they need a good backup. And Fromm could work in there, and especially add a 4th or 5th round pick there.
Yeah. But, not only do you need a good backup, you need a guy that in camp, in practice, when you're running the scout team, when you're giving guys reps, that they're good enough, that they're accurate enough, that you can assess your second line wide receivers, your second line DBs. When you put a QB out there that can't hit the broad side of a barn, it's really hard to assess the rest of your team in camp and in practice from day to day, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, to Tom's question, I think the Bills are loaded with talent. I think their Achilles heel is going to come from the quarterback position. I think what held them back from winning a game against Houston last year was the poor production you got from Josh Allen. If they really are going to make a push against the New England Patriots, it's going to come down to quarterback play. That's simply as that.
You know, you mentioned a good point there. Josh Allen has been enjoying the Cinderella time in Buffalo because they're just so happy to have anybody that's any good. And he's got a lot of pluses in his column, a lot of things that excite you. And I don't deny that. But you make a very good point. When are they going to start holding his feet to the fire and saying, hey, all those things are great, but guy, you're killing us here. You're the reason that we're not getting over the hump. And that is the case, isn't it?
Well, it's interesting if you want to break down the prospect of Josh Allen when he came out of college. He was a guy who came out of Wyoming. And
right.
Usually when you get a quarterback you draft in the top 10, they have all the traits. They're athletic, they're big, they're strong. They have a cannon for an arm. Josh Allen has all those things. But when you have a talent like that and playing against a lesser opponents at the University of Wyoming, he didn't kill it. You need to kill your competition in college. If he's not going to kill the competition against lesser opponents, what makes you think all of a sudden he's going to turn around and do that in the NFL?
If you can't beat up on your little brother, who can you beat up on?
Your sister.
I mean, it's true. It's true what you say. All right, we got to get these draft grades as we're going around. Start with yours, Joshua. You said it earlier. I didn't write it down. What's your official draft grade?
I went B plus.
B plus. All right. Talking to the man, Nate. What do you think?
I give them a solid B. You know, they made the trade for Stephon Diggs. They got a great value pick in AJ Epinesa in the second round. They got good value for Jake Fromm. Yeah. Really, I think they're ready to compete. It just comes down to the question mark at the quarterback position.
Tom, what do you think, man?
You know what? For a draft grade, if you include Diggs, I'll give him a B. I just see the Buffalo Bills sliding down. You know, I do like Epinesa as a second-round pick. I think, you know, the Bills always had a stout defense, and it looks like they're going to be able to feast on some quarterbacks in the AFC East because, you know, there's no one that strikes that fear in you. But I just see the Buffalo Bills, you know, regressing in 2020.
Wow. Okay, there you go. I'm kind of in the range you are. I give them a B minus. When you look at the draft, I like what they did with these players. These players address needs. I like the players. I think that they're going to fit in with the team. I think there's a lot of upside with them. Could go all the way around. But when you look at who they were taking when they picked, I thought maybe there was some value on the board there that they could have done a little better with. Ergo, I'm giving them a B minus. Not bad, but that's the little minus tick I give them. But Buffalo, man, I mean, it's got to be nice for them just not having to worry about Tom Brady being in their division, right? I mean, you got to admit it.
Yes, sir. It's going to be nice.
Dolphins are up next, Nate. Regale us.
Well, it's funny. If I were to compare this draft to something, I'd call it the Cold War draft. Everyone's bunkered up at home, and they're stockpiling on arms, literally the wide receiver position. You saw a lot of teams double dipping in this position. You didn't see that with the Miami Dolphins. They went and got their franchise quarterback, and they knew they had to surround him with talent on the offensive line. They knew they're not going to win with Tua unless they surround him with protection. They went ahead and got – a lot of people felt they reached in the first round with Austin Jackson, only a 20-year-old prospect with sky is the limit talent. And then they fed into a strength of theirs. They signed Byron Jones in the offseason, already have Xavier Howard, and they fed into the well, drafting the quarterback from Auburn. And I say the cornerback from Auburn because I'm not even going to pretend to pronounce his last name. But anyway, you're looking. You got to look at Brian Flores, who was a linebackers coach in New England beforehand. This was a very New England-esque draft, and what I mean by that is they fed into a strength into the secondary. They stockpiled on the offensive line. They got great value with Austin Griever in the 5th round, an edge rusher from Boise. They drafted several guards, and they know they're not going to win unless they beef up the both lines on their team.
Well, I mean, but I just want to hear you try to say Nick Igbenogwy's name one time. Come on.
Nick Igbenogwy.
Oh,
I'm
dude, you
cultured.
nailed it. All
I'm
right.
cultured.
Let's give it up.
I
Let's give
am
it up.
cultured.
I nailed it. Okay. Go ahead, Tom.
My question to Nate is, it kind of came in 2019 that the Miami Dolphins plan was to tank. After looking at this 2020 draft, do you think tanking in 2019 was worth it for the Dolphins?
Well,
good
well,
call.
it was funny because they said they were tanking, but the team had in my opinion, the worst roster in the league and still managed to win 5 games. So, and they really cut bait with a lot of people that really did not want to be there. So the people that were in that locker room really wanted to compete. So I'm not even convinced all the way that they were tanking. But with that being said, I think this gives them the best chance to raise the win column to above 5 games next year. Yes, Van?
Oh, I mean, that's how you tank. You give yourself the worst roster in the league. They tanked, okay? The front office helped them tank. That's
They
the way you
traded
do it.
they traded everyone away.
Well,
You
they
don't,
traded everyone
you
who
don't
wanted
ask
to-
your coach to not win. You don't do that. You don't ask players to go at half speed, though there are a few players I've seen playing there that have been going at half speed. No, what you do is you give yourself the worst roster in the league. They did. They tanked. Boom. Was it worth it? I think that's a great question. We don't know. I thought they were going to trade up. I thought they were going to get to they didn't need to do that. They got to I think it's a solid draft all the way around. I like a lot of points that you made there. They had to build around him. They had a lot of holes to fill. They still got a lot of holes to fill. It really didn't matter where they picked as long as they got good guys. They got interesting guys. There's some picks you could raise an eyebrow out. Definitely. I remember on draft day, I raised an eyebrow at a couple. Spinksy definitely had a few things to say about a couple. But overall, you start with Tua. You either believe in him or you don't. I don't think there's any doubting the talent. It's just the medical, just the medical. Can he stay healthy? But as we all know, availability is a skill in the NFL, right? Right, Nate?
Yeah, well, I think the funniest part and why I'm going to grade them higher than they probably should be is because they bamboozled people. I mean, if you look at the information they were sending out before the draft, and I'm not talking about your generic fans, I'm talking about connected people in the league and front offices around the league, that they were convinced that they were going to take Herbert or that they were going to try to leapfrog to 3 and take the best offensive tackle.
That was the word. Yes.
And, I guarantee you the Chargers woke up on draft day thinking if no one trades up beforehand, Tua's going to fall to us at 6.
Yep. They probably had Tua T-shirts already made up. The website was already working on the Tua jersey, had that dialed in. I totally agree with you. That was the official buzz and undercurrent on the league as they went around. Well, hey, let's work the grades as we come around. Let's take it around. Tom, you grade up first.
I think, just by this is one where they got a lot of, I guess, quantity to say the least. I'll probably give them a B plus. I like the Tua acquisition. It's high risk, high reward. I do think they reached a little bit with Austin Jackson, but they did have a lot of picks, so they addressed a lot of needs. So it can only go up. So I would give the Dolphins a B plus.
So Josh, what do you think? Joshua?
I like the Dolphins draft this year. They had a good draft. I mean, 11 picks. It's like Tom said. I mean, quantity right there. They addressed some needs. I mean, it might have been a stretch taking Austin Jackson, but I mean, by pick 18, there wasn't that many good. It wasn't as good of O tackles on the board. I mean, still, I'm going to give them an A minus.
All right. Makes a lot of sense what you're saying. Now we go to the man himself. All right. What do you got there? Grade him up.
I was leaning towards Tom's direction and giving him a B plus, but I love the bamboozlement. And I'm going to give them an A minus due to the bamboozlement they pulled on the rest of the league and the front offices. Man. And the thing is, people don't remember 2021 is scheduled to be, if we even have a season, it's going to be another strong wide receiver class. So they can go ahead and stockpile arms Cold War style next year if need be.
Well, I'm going to make it official with my grade of an A- that the three of us think that Tom doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Okay.
That half a grade, Tom.
He is the slightest bit behind.
B students make it further than A students.
There it is. And for the same reasons, I mean, in 3 years, we're really going to grade this draft. I mean, it all depends on if Tua can stay healthy, but they believe in him. So, hey, you know, you've got to give them the benefit, at least I do, give them the benefit of the doubt until he starts not showing up on game day and in, you know, during the week. You know, he's good to go. The Austin Jackson thing definitely knocked him down just a notch, I think, you know, ergo the minus. Few other minor things, but overall, they went after it. They got their guy. They got the bamboozlement. And, but then also they surrounded him with pieces to help him. So I like it all the way. A- for me as well. As we work down our list, now we go to the New York Jets. Tom, you set the tone now, my man.
Yes. So the New York Jets, their first two picks, they went to help out their quarterback, Sam Darnold. First, they got Mekhi Becton, offensive tackle, 6'7", 364 pounds. What was even more impressive was he surprised a lot of people, if not shocked them at the combine by running a 5'1", 40-yard dash, which people 360 pounds, not supposed to be that fast. Second round, they got Denzel Mims, wide receiver. He could be a replacement for Robbie Anderson going forward. But I think the most unique pick, which will have the most immediate impact and could potentially shuffle other players around for the New York Jets, was in the third round, the New York Jets drafted safety Ashton Davis. This is important because Jamal Adams has been on the trade block, so they don't know if they're going to sign him or trade him. Davis could be Adams' replacement. They could bring Davis into camp, see how he's doing, and if necessary, trade out Jamal Adams, which is going to be an interesting storyline going into the season. I think for a letter grade, I would give this a B- because even though this class was deep at tackles, I think Becton is probably the number 4 tackle I would select. You know, he did have a great combine, but I think you need to pick up his technique a little bit going forward. Josh, what do you think about the Jets draft?
I like what the Jets did this year. I mean, like you said, with the O tackle, but it was like this year, the O tackles, it was basically what the team wanted for an O tackle, right? I mean, you saw, you know, switches up with Tristan Wirfs going, you know, where he went and stuff like that. So, I mean, for a letter grade, I give him a B- too. You know, they addressed their needs in the first 2 rounds with the Denzel. I think Denzel Mims was a pretty good pick. I mean, if I had to give him a letter grade as a pick, he would have been as an A-. But just overall, the Jets with the I would say B-. How do you feel about that there, Van?
Well, I'm along line with what you guys are thinking. Definitely in the B range. I just can't put a minus on anything that's got Mekhi Becton on it. He ain't got no minus in him. That's a plus pick right there, man. That's a plus pick. So I'm going to go with B plus, just for that reason alone. Whatever I was going to go, C, D, A, it was going to have a plus on it because of Mekhi Becton. I love him. I love his upside. I love the potential length of his career. I mean, just having somebody like that can lean on a guy for 4 quarters, by the end of the 4th quarter, go that direction, because whoever he's been leaning on for 4 quarters, making him hold him up, that guy's going to be tired. That's just all there is to it. And they needed to do something. So, wow, they went out and did it. The Denzel Mims pick, I really feel like that fell to them. And they didn't screw it up, man. They just took it, which I thought was nice. So, yeah, B all the way around, and then a B plus, of course, for the obvious reason. Are you on the plus bandwagon there, Josh?
On the plus bandwagon. No,
Yeah.
I gave it a B. I gave it a B minus.
Oh, okay. I was trying to see if I could get you on the bandwagon. What about you, Nate?
Well, I liked what they did in the first 2 rounds. You know, Dan, you know me. I have a lot of love for the fat boys up front, and that's what they did. And I would tell that to Mekhi Becton's face because I think I could still run above a 5.0 40.
There it is. There it is.
But with that being said, they traded down in the second round, and they still ended up with great value with Denzel Mims. You look at Denzel Mims' tape, he didn't get a lot of separation in college because the lack of diversity of routes they ran at Baylor a lot of times. So a lot of corners were sitting on his routes, had a lot of contested catches, ran in the 4.3s at his pro day that he held privately, and as well as that, he tore it up at the Senior Bowl. So it showed some diversity in his routes he can run. I think they got great value in the second round. Wasn't that big of a fan or that familiar with the picks they had later on. So I'm going to give them a C plus. That's a T.
It's a win, man.
Plus, though.
Plus.
It's a win. It's a win. Or as Spinksy would say.
There you go.
Everything is L, man. Everything is L. Okay. All right, man. Well, as we work around the room now, we're going to the New England Patriots, the Patriots. And that falls on me. And what gets me about the Patriots draft guys, and give me some kickback on this, is the pundits around the league, everybody was talking, what is Bill Belichick going to do now? What's he going to do now that Brady's gone? What's he going to do now? And I don't think that they got it, that he had a plan before Brady was shown the door. And Brady didn't leave. He was kind of pushed out the door, you know, and so Belichick had a plan. Does anybody here think that Belichick didn't have a plan?
God Emperor Belichick always has a plan.
And he's got a plan after that plan, probably. I mean, he's got a plan C and a plan D. So, I mean, this was just another draft for Bill. And Stidham is obviously the guy, I believe, that you had mentioned that earlier, Nate, that he was all in on Stidham, right?
Yeah, and that was another thing. A lot of teams were convinced that they were going to draft a quarterback, at least early or in the mid rounds, if they fell to him.
I did.
But they were quite consistent all along, saying that, hey, we believe in Stidham. We believe in Stidham. They're going to give him the best opportunity to try to be the guy next year.
I had Jordan Love in my headlights somehow, some way. So anyhow, he didn't, and that's just the way it is. And he went down and did a typical Bill Belichick draft. He wants to maximize the number of picks that he has because he knows that they're not all going to hit. He knows it's a Vegas crap roll. And he likes to also double up on certain positions and stuff because he wants competition. Plus, he doesn't know for sure which one is going to hit. He knows which one he'd like to hit, both. But that's the way he goes after it. So his first pick, he'd already traded out of the first round, which is typical Bill Belichick. If there is one thing he doesn't do well, I don't think overall, is first rounders. He doesn't have a great history of first rounders, does he? I mean,
yeah, well, I think we brought this up before that it is a little different when you're consistently drafting when a low class is 30 overall. So
you're really dropped in top of the second, aren't you?
Yeah, you're essentially top of the second because, essentially you're hoping a guy with a first round grade gets passed over to you when you're picking that late. So, you're essentially picking a lot of second round grades, which is why he tries to acquire as many as possible.
Well, that's always why he spoke well of the Cleveland and New York Jets because, they help him out every season by, taking somebody he has no interest in. So it's really good. So anyhow, he goes down the list. He gets in the second round, he gets Kyle Duggar. I love this kid. He's been trying to get this bigger safety for a while. He's got something back there. He's been bringing in guys 6'4", 6'3". Kyle's 6'2" out of Lenore Ryan. He's got elite size, speed, explosiveness, everything. I love this draft pick. Then he goes again in the second, gets Josh Uche. And Bill loves doing this. Multiple picks and rounds, where he can get talent bunched together and pick out who he wants. This linebacker out of Michigan is going to play this year. He's going to do a lot for them. And then he goes after an edge guy. And Josh Uche, by the way, he is a linebacker, but he's really more of a situational edge rusher. He puts pressure on the quarterback. That's what that kid does. And that's what Bill's going to have him do. Then he comes back and addresses edge again and in the third round and gets Anthony Jennings. So 2 guys right away, boom, on the edge. Then he comes back in the third round and gets 2 tight ends back to back, Devin Asasi and Dalton Keene, UCLA and Virginia Tech. I like both these kids. I'm sure Bill likes both these kids. It's just a matter of which ones come up. And if both of them are good enough, he'll find a way to use them. That's what he does. Kicker, Justin, I'll let you say the last name, Nate. You owe me one. Okay.
Kicker lives don't matter.
There it is. Out of Marshall, he needed a kicker. So, we're going to wait and see on this guy. Bill's got a good history with kickers. We're going to see. Then offensive guard, he comes in back-to-back, gets Mike Onowinu out of Michigan, then Justin Herron out of Wake Forest. Both good guys, both address a position of need. They're going to compete directly with each other, and they can definitely slot in and get time. Then he comes back, and I think this guy is more of a special teams guy. Cash Malula out of Wyoming, linebacker, got a lot of good lateral quickness and speed. He can do some interesting things, but again, I see him more as a special teams guy. Then Dustin Woodard, the offensive center out of Memphis. That's a nice swing for the fences in the 7th round. This kid was available. He can play. And that is what Bill Belichick does. He fills his teams with guys that can play, and here and there, a few nuggets rise to the top. I love this draft all over. I give it a solid B+, which is about all any draft is for Bill Belichick, a B, something like that. I give it a solid B+ because it's just typical Bill all the way around. Solid guys all the way around. Nate, I'm going to throw it to you right away. How would you break this pick?
Well, first of all, we have to put in context here. These are the New England Patriots. They are held to a different standard than the rest of the general managers around the league. Let's say it this way. Imagine if the Jacksonville Jaguars had this exact draft. Every last one of us probably grades this an F-. I mean, just because they don't have the capabilities to develop players the same way that the New England Patriots do. And the thing that's special about the guys that got Uche in the 2nd round and Jennings in the 3rd round from Bama, both those guys offer a lot of scheme versatility, which is right up the New England Patriot way. They can disguise a lot of different things, and they're versatile players right up the New England Patriots alley. I don't know a lot about the first pick they made, but I know they traded up. They liked him a lot. I know he was a late bloomer. That's why he was not scouted to nearly the same.
First small school guy taken in the 2nd round. I mean, just incredible. The school is so proud of him. But the guy produced exactly what you were saying earlier, Nate. If you are going to be a superior guy, you were talking about quarterbacks, and you're playing against lesser talent, you should dominate, right?
Right.
I mean,
you're
there it is.
Your athlete.
That's what this kid did.
Right.
Dominate. So.
And he was a guy who hit a growth spurt kind of late, and probably had he matured earlier, probably would have gone to a Power 5 school. So proper scouting. So I always give the benefit of the doubt to the Patriots. I give it a B.
And he went and was scouted personally by Bill. I mean, and this was before all the stuff went down. So, I mean, hey, man, a solid B. Wow, that's pretty cool. Josh, another thing I want to throw at you before Tom finishes us up is I think, again, mad genius of Bill or Patriots luck. The weakest position in the draft by many, cornerback. Who has the strongest defensive backfield in the league right now? The Patriots. They didn't need to take one defensive back.
No, I mean, the Patriots drafts are so hard to grade every year because we have no idea what Bill Belichick is seeing or where he's finding these people from. I mean, realistically, the Patriots are going to cheat somehow again this year and make the playoffs, so it doesn't really matter who they draft. But, I mean, it's going to come down to Stidham. I mean, he's drafting the pieces around, and like you said, they already have a solid defense. He drafted linebackers, he drafted tackles, he drafted O-linemen. He drafted tight ends. He drafted the positions that he likes, especially after losing Gronk. He's obviously going to be running the same kind of style offense with, a lot of play on the tight ends. So yeah, it's going to come down to Stidham. But I mean, when it comes to letter grades, I mean, I can't give Bill Belichick anything less than a B right now. I mean, realistically, half of these players could be Pro Bowlers in 5 years.
You just don't know. You just don't know. You're totally honest. And that is the fact of it. You nailed it. All of us would like to say that we have an insight onto when your nickname is the evil genius. Okay, there you go. All right.
I mean,
Tom,
even his dog looked like he knew something that we didn't.
and he probably does. Okay. All right. He probably knows where the kibbles and the bits are. All right. Tom, what do you got for us in Patriotsville? I do want to ask you, you have some unique insight in this because you follow the Giants so closely, and you're only as good as your competition. Mm-hmm. And I have to think that Belichick has to lay awake at nights because he still has yet to figure out how to beat the Giants in the Super Bowl, has he?
No, well, it's also, the New York Giants are Bill Belichick matured. He won 2 Super Bowls there. He's a defensive coordinator. And honestly, if you want to have a successful head coaching career, be a coordinator for the New York Giants. You got Lombardi, Landry, Parcells, Sean Payton. These are some of the best, even Bill Parcells.
That defensive game plan is in the Hall of Fame, isn't it? Yep. That he dialed up there. Yeah,
it is. He wanted Thurman Thomas to get rushed for over 100 yards because he found it out. But I think a lot of NFL ownership and brain trust might be wondering if that was the dog that was peeking into their window that saw their big board when they saw Belichick's dog up there. But I think I have to agree with Josh and Nate is when you look at the Patriots, they've been successful for so long. And you just got to be like, you know what? Whatever they're doing, it keeps on working. And also no one has been able to really copy it. So that's also the second thing. So even without looking at their draft, it's like, know what? Just give them a B, but now you're going to get the answer to the question, is it the scheme or is it the talent? Because now that Brady's gone, it's going to be a race. All right, who's going to win a title first? Is it going to be Belichick? Is he going to fall apart without Brady? Or, who's going to blink first? Who's going to digress first? And I think that's something that's going to be going forward. Van, how do you feel about that?
Well, I think it's close to the question, but that's not the question. Is it the scheme or the talent? It's always both. You can have all the talent in the world, and then you're in a crappy scheme. Well, we know how that goes. You can have the best scheme in the world. It's like the Christians and the Lions, okay? They had a hell of a coach, but the team was a little shaky, okay? The Christians just couldn't bring it home on game day. It wasn't working for them, all right? So it is both. The question here is, can he find another quarterback? That's it.
I think, that is the one surprise, but also the way things went down. It wasn't that the Patriots, it wasn't that, Brady decided to leave the Patriots. I think the Patriots decided to leave Brady. And they always have the keen of once people leave New England, all of a sudden they're gone. It's like kind of the end of Space Jam when the Monstars have to hand in their talent to the NBA players. They digress. And it's just, just looking at it, you have to look at Belichick and be like, he's the evil genius. He's, Darth Vader. He's, whoever you want to call it, you can't question it. It's going to be
You're right. You're right.
If the AFC East catches up to him.
But Tom, it's not war because there's nothing like war. But to give an example, in wartime, if you're in a platoon, if you're with a group of guys and one goes down, you don't stop and mourn for him. You step over him and keep fighting. And that is what Belichick has instilled there. So once you're gone, you're gone. You're absolutely right. And that is the way that they do it. They move forward. They stay focused on the win. And I understand totally why and how and everything happened. I think Belichick has a way of moving on from guys while they still have a year or two left in him. Now with Tom, he actually wanted to move on from Tom a couple of years ago. So I'm curious as to how long Tom can go. If anybody can keep marching, though, it's going to be Brady. That guy is a special talent. Belichick himself acknowledges that. So, that's not a problem.
I think it's going to be a race to the next championship. Will Belichick get it or Brady? Because whoever gets there first, if Brady gets there, he can be like, no, what?
No, as long as they both get there, then everything's good. Mm-hmm. If Belichick doesn't get there again, then there will be conversation. Okay. And there's always going to be conversation. It's not going to matter. That's sports. That's what's great about this, and it's like Emmitt Smith and
Barry Sanders.
And Barry Sanders, you can have that all day long, especially if you're a Barry Sanders guy, because you're never going to convince me it's Emmitt Smith. So let's just move on. All right. All right. Everybody, look, we really appreciate it. And before we go any further, we want to remind everybody, thank you so much for watching. Without you all, this doesn't happen. We all love sports. Thank you so much. And this COVID-19 time, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit that little notify bell so that you'll know when we put up more of our original content. We do a lot of that. And of course, the best damn highlights on the web. Before we go, I'd like to take a moment and thank Mr. Nate Dowdy. They can find you on Twitter at No Remorse Sports. Thank you very much for being here, sir.
Thank you. And I'm taking a note from Bernie Sanders' book. I am once again asking you to follow me on Twitter.
Well said. And man, I would vote for you. Okay. I would vote for you. All right. And Joshua Griffith here for the first time. Thank you so much for being here, sir. We really appreciate it. And would you please tell everyone out there how they can find you and follow you on social media?
Absolutely. They can follow me on Twitter at Joshua Griffith 0. That's the number 0. And I wanted to make sure that we're all in agreements that the Patriots will be cheating again this year.
Show of hands. Show of hands. Okay.
Yeah, I think the Patriots dog is really a seeing eye dog. So when he has an assistant go pretend he's blind, he's really spying.
No.
So we're going to see that.
I think he is a service dog, but what it is Belichick got him because if he figures if he has to talk to the commissioner, he's going to need somebody that can speak on the commissioner's level. That's all. That's all. Okay.
Well, I think we all know where the sleeves of his sweaters are going now.
Ooh, ouch, spank. All right. And of course, Mr. Tom McAllister coming in, holding down our New York fort. You can find him on Twitter at defends_com. Defends_com. Mr. McAllister, thank you so much for being here, sir.
Thanks for having me.
All right. And to everyone out there, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come here and share it with us. Hope you have so much fun. Be sure and follow also at SportsTalkLine. And until next time, listen and watch like you play with intensity. Bye now.